right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our special meeting this evening. It's our open house. So we wanted to share a little bit more about Sweet Sobriety, who we are, and also to share a special message from Vika, who couldn't be here in person, but has recorded a little, note for you for about what is this sleep workshop all about, and are you someone who might need to take it? So I'm Clarissa Kennedy. I'm one of the co-founders of Sweet Sobriety. I have a history of food addiction and eating disorders.
Yourself, but I'll try.
And Molly hit mute. Thank you, Molly. So I also have a long history of working in the field of mental health and addictions. And then, discovered food addiction, became really passionate about working specifically with food addiction. And then Molly and my dream was to create a low cost option for us to work with as many people as possible. And hence Sweet Sobriety was born. And so we're really exciting to be hosting our first conference this year in Toronto. And I'll be introducing one of our speakers, Rachel, who is going to give a short psychoeducation piece this evening as well. And so I will pass it over to another Sweet Sobriety team member, Bethany.
Hello, everybody. Have you ever had one of those days where things are going along really well? You're mindfully eating a meal. You're proud of yourself because you've left enough time to mindfully eat your meal. And then you get a message from your teammate that says, hey, the meeting's starting. And you had your schedule mixed up. So that's what happened to me tonight. But anyway, so I'm Bethany Mura, and so Bethany Mura, like kangaroo, if you've ever wondered how to say that last name. I live in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, and I'm registered with the Ontario College of Social Workers with a master's in social work. So like lots of people who work in this field, I have my own story, my personal story of sugar and food addiction. You can hear more of that if you want to on the Sweet Sobriety YouTube channel or on the Sweet Sobriety website where we have the videos. I think, Molly, if you could help out just by putting that into the chat, the link there, so people can see it. There are tons of great stories. Molly has done a great job interviewing all kinds of people who struggle like we do. And so it's great to check out if you can, just even listen to, one a week or one a month. You can try and get caught up that way. But anyway, so I can remember sneaking food at a young age, always trying to get more than my share, scheming how to get more, battling my weight and my shape for over 40 years, being like, this is the one thing I just can't seem to figure out. So I read all kinds of things about it. And finally, I think the penny dropped when I heard about food addiction. At first I resisted and thought, this can't be me. I can give this up anytime I want to, right? That's a true addict, I think, talking. But anyway, so that was part of it. And then learning from Clarissa and from Molly about recovery in addition to just abstinence, that has what has really changed my trajectory. So I love to work with people and help them find their own pathway, because I think we all have unique journeys, some similarities where we can help, and then other things where we're like, let's evolve this as we go. And I love that Sweet Sobriety doesn't have a one size fits all kind of program. I love that they will be open to wherever you are on a spectrum between food addiction, disordered eating, anything in between, any other unique circumstances that you have. So it's a real honor for me to work with them. They are very honest and authentic. And that's sort of what drew me to them. That aligns with my own values as well. They have a lot of honesty. We have a lot of honesty with clients and with ourselves, so that we can call each other on things as well. And and it's never, when we work on things together, it's never like a fluffy promotion or, buy now. It's the high pressure sales tactics, nothing like that. We offer things that are of good value for people wherever you're at on this journey. And I think also I really love it because we also keep learning. We learn about how to help people achieve freedom and from sugar and food addiction. So that's it for me.
So I'm Molly Painshop. Clarissa always does a very good job of sharing our combined story. I'm a dual licensed mental health and addiction counselor in Montana. So I am the US portion of this international team. I have been in the field of mental health and addiction since 2005, starting out working in corrections with child protective services, with suicide hotline, sexual assault center, you name it. I've probably met somebody who has been in some sort of system that needed some kind of help. Much like Clarissa, have my own story that's very different, but my own story nonetheless. I found Vera's book, and that was kind of the final puzzle piece for me, which was kind of embarrassing on some level, being a mental health and an addiction professional and never even thinking, hey, food can be addictive. What? But after that, yep, I set out and decided that was what I wanted the next chapter of my life to look like. And so, so here we are with Sweet Sobriety. I am going to share Vika's video about her sleep workshop coming up, because as you guys know, part of what we like to do is offer monthly education opportunities to continue building recovery. Like Bethany said, we go beyond just the abstinence. We really want to help people flourish in recovery. So I'm going to share that video really quick. Vika was really sorry not to be able to be here, but we'll get that shared. And if you have any questions, we'll be able to answer them for you later on. And somebody tell me if you can't hear it.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Hama, and if you haven't heard yet, I am going to be the one to give you your sleep hygiene workshop. I'm so excited about this workshop because we're going to be talking a lot about sleep, its benefits, and really what happens when you don't get enough sleep, which is happening chronically throughout our society right now. So we're going to talk about what happens when you don't get enough sleep, what not enough sleep actually looks like. And a big one of it is how food plays into good sleep, bad sleep, and different types of sleep. How changing foods in your diet or how changing the way or times you eat can actually affect your whole body and your circadian rhythm. Now, sleep, we know it's important, but we forget how important it is. We know we can only go a few days without food and water. The truth is, you can go even less time without sleep. If you were to not sleep for only a couple days, you are going to have detrimental effects leading to death. So sleep is so incredibly key and vital to our whole being, our whole health, our brain, our body. It has a hand to play in weight loss, weight gain, mental cognition, Alzheimer's disease, cardiovascular disease, aging, and more. So we're going to talk about all of this, including a big topic, especially for women, which is some pieces of
It's buffering for some reason. So hold on. Oh no, okay, well, some kind of error occurred. I apologize, but that was a little teaser as to what's to come in the workshop with Vika. And I'm glad that she shared that fact about, like, we can go so many days without food and so many days without water, but the truth is we can go even less without sleep. And it's not very long. It's not very long at all. So be sure that if you're interested at all in improving your sleep, that you let us know if you need the link to sign up for that workshop. And I'm going to kick it back over to you, to Clarissa.
Yeah, and we will figure out that video and we'll post it in the Facebook group for Therapy Thursday tomorrow so that you can watch the end of the video. So another thing I wanted to let everyone know who's coming to the meetup, we do have a new speaker and his name is Roni Milesh, and he has a master's of social work. He's also a psychotherapist. He studied 3 years of program of self-psychology and the Therapeutic Act. He also has 5 years of experience working with eating disorder patients in a hospital setting in Israel. He's coming from Israel for this conference, so it's pretty exciting. So during the last 15 years, he spent most of his time leading group processes. He built a program for nutritionists, both dietitians and naturopath for the Israeli Association for Nutritionists. And his expertise is really about practicing and engaging with Buddhist meditation, as well as looking through our relationship with food as a gate for change and healing. So he's going to be leading a presentation on emotional hunger versus emotional starvation. And then after his workshop, he's going to lead us through a mindful meal experience workshop where we're all going to share a meal together. But without further ado, I am excited to announce Rachel Murray. So Rachel is passionate and dedicated advocate for women's hormone health and the intricate link it shares with sugar cravings. She's a registered holistic nutritionist and is on a mission to empower women to be in connection with their mind, body, and discover lasting food freedom. She has a background as a registered nurse, and so she understands the unique challenges faced by women in their journey towards optimal health and the significant impact that hormonal imbalances can have on sugar cravings. Rachel offers a holistic coaching approach to sugar addiction that encompasses a comprehensive understanding of women's hormonal health and allows her clients to regain control over their relationship with food and lead fulfilling lives driven by purpose and passion. So on Sunday, October 22nd, Rachel will be presenting Craving Control, Navigating the Complex Relationship Between Women's Hormones and Sugar. And tonight, she's going to start speaking a little bit about understanding the interplay between hormones and cravings. So take it away, Rachel.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really grateful for this opportunity and excited to meet all of you. So I'm just going to get my screen shared here. Oops, see if I can get the right one. One sec. There we go. All right, can you guys see that okay? Perfect. All right, so I'll just start off a little bit about myself. So like Clarissa said, I have a great passion for educating women. Education has always been very important to me. And I started off, I've always been interested in health and wellness, and I started off my career as a nurse. And when I found out that I couldn't really apply that education piece the way that I wanted to, I transitioned into nutrition, both so that I could better educate myself, but also so that I could focus on that education piece that I was really passionate about. And my journey into food addiction and sugar addiction actually came on serendipitously, I'd like to say, because it was through these repeated connections I had with clients that were always coming to me telling me, I know what I should eat, but I just can't stick to it. I'm doing the same things that I used to be doing, but now I'm gaining weight. I feel like I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. And it was after during the time I was working with this really difficult client, and I don't mean difficult in personality, but that I was having a hard time helping her because of how her addiction to food was presenting. It was something that I hadn't really considered before. And it was through that process of, I came across Bitten Johnson actually, and connected with her. It was really a fluke that I had listened to a podcast and I was like, oh my goodness, this is describing my client to a T. And so I was really late to the game in understanding that sugar addiction and food addiction was something that was real. And so it was through trying to get the tools that I needed to help this client and other clients like her that I discovered that I actually had sugar addiction. So it kind of came to me as a shock at first, but then once I dug in and understood a little bit more, everything just kind of fell into place and made sense for me. So it really was a more recent discovery for me. I'm coming up on 3 years focusing specifically on sugar addiction. Like I said, I've been in the health and wellness field for much longer than that, but I'm a relative newbie to this space. And in that picture there, that's my little guy there. So a lot of this I do for him as well, because I want him to grow up in a world where we don't have the shame and self-abuse that we see so commonly now with sugar addiction. Oh, I think, are you guys able to admit other people, or is that you guys are seeing that too?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll
You
take
can
care of that
ignore.
for
Okay.
you.
All
Yeah.
right. Perfect. All right. So where's my little cursor here? There we go. So that's a quick little summary about myself. If you have any questions at the end, I'm happy to answer them, but I'll move on. I know we don't have a whole lot of time. So I am going to be talking about hormones, but I want to just give a little bit of a background. I'm sure some of this information, if you've been following Molly and Clarissa, then this is probably not new, but I feel like it's an important background piece to have before we move on to the hormones. So sugar's appeal really has a deep-rooted evolutionary perspective in our biology. So when we think about a little baby, we develop our preference for that sweet taste. And the reason for this is because it encourages us to nurse and keep us alive and allow us to thrive into a healthy adult. And our distant ancestors also involved in this environment where anything that had a sweet taste in nature was safe to eat. So our brains are wired to be attracted to these things. And it's just unfortunate now that we live in this environment where these foods that were once very hard to find are readily available. So our evolution hasn't caught up with our current environment. And as a result, our taste buds developing this preference for sweetness, it had that adaptive piece allowing us to survive, but now it's leading us towards all these health challenges. And then if we look at that dopamine response piece, sugar consumption triggers a very powerful response in our brain, and it's primarily through that release of the dopamine, but there are also other neurotransmitters that are involved. So when you consume sugar, your brain's reward system is activated, and this leads to those feelings of pleasure and satisfaction and comfort, just like a little baby would get when they're nursing. And these feelings are, they just reinforce us to continue to seek out that sweet taste. And our brain's response to sugar, like many of you probably know, is very similar to the way it responds to other addictive substances, such as alcohol and other drugs. So over time, this repeated exposure, it can lead to tolerance, where you require more and more of the sugar or the food to achieve that same level of pleasure. So this leads to those cravings, those continuous patterns, and it ultimately makes it very challenging to reduce our sugar intake. So this then brings us to sugar's impact on insulin and our blood sugar. So when you consume sugar, particularly in the form of glucose or dextrose, it rapidly enters our bloodstream and spikes our blood sugar. And in response to this spike, the pancreas will release that insulin, and insulin's role is to move that glucose out of the bloodstream and into the cells where it can be either used for energy or stored for energy later on. So the surge in insulin helps to lower our our blood sugar. And if that drop in blood sugar is dramatic, that's when we get these cravings, those feelings of hunger, and so on. So these rapid fluctuations in blood sugar caused by the sugar consumption often leads to that cycle of craving, what I call craving and caving, where it becomes really difficult to say no to the sugar because we're just stuck in this cycle. So the reason I talk about this is because insulin is going to be one of the first hormones that we discuss. It might come as a surprise because that's not the first hormone that you think of when we're talking about women's hormone health and cravings, but it plays a really big role. So that just gives a brief little introduction to, like I said, the first hormone that we're going to talk about, or not the first one, but one of the hormones that we're going to talk about. So like I said, when we're on the topic of women's hormones, what is one of the first or one or two hormones that come to mind? You can unmute, or if you want to just put it in the chat. Don't know if anyone's want to speak up. Oh, there we go. Now I can see it. Yes, estrogen and progesterone, exactly. So as you see, I'm in a little hierarchy here. They're actually near the bottom because we have to really look at a number of other hormones when we're on the topic of women's hormone health, because although estrogen and progesterone, I don't want to say that any one of these is more important than the other, but there is a cascade of events that occurs that we really need to take into account. So I'm going to go through these briefly tonight during the Sweet Sobriety retreat. I will be getting into these in a little bit more detail. So the first one that I want to talk about is oxytocin. So if you're not familiar with oxytocin, I've given them all a little name to remember them here. So it's the love hormone, and we most often think about this in pregnancy and bonding with a new baby, but it actually has a significant impact on our mood and emotional being throughout our lifetime. So positive social interactions, spending time with people that we love, even pets, hugging, bonding with a newborn or just a new friend, all of these actions trigger the release of oxytocin. And why is that important? So when oxytocin levels are elevated, individuals are actually less prone to emotional eating, and they experience a sense of emotional satisfaction and connection and comfort, all of which needs to happen to support someone who is struggling with sugar cravings. Next, if we look at cortisol, it's kind of the opposite of oxytocin. It still has some positive roles that it plays in our body, but in the context of cravings, it's detrimental to that. So it's a hormone that's produced in our adrenal glands, and it responds to stress in our lives. It follows this daily rhythm, but we can get stuck in a state where we're constantly releasing more than we need to, or our levels are depleted, which can also have some negative effects. So if we feel like we're chronically under stress, this is going to lead to various effects on our appetite and cravings, because our body feels like it's in this fight or flight mode all the time, where it has to run from that proverbial tiger. So it's constantly looking for some kind of source of energy, and sugar provides a great quick energy source. So that is also going to contribute to our cravings. So if we think about oxytocin and cortisol having opposing effects, if we can build into our lives things that help to release oxytocin, as well as manage stress. And this doesn't mean that we get rid of stress. It just means that we learn how to manage it, or even just how to navigate it differently in such a way that we're able to balance out those hormones. We can really see a dramatic shift. So then if we go back to insulin, so like I said before, it helps to regulate those blood sugars, and it facilitates the uptake of the glucose into the cells. And while oxytocin and cortisol kind of have this neat relationship, insulin actually has an interesting relationship with estrogen. So when insulin is high, estrogen goes low, and vice versa. So estrogen actually thrives in a low insulin state. So when we're consuming high levels of refined sugars and carbs, leading to these spikes and crashes all the time, our hormone functioning is going to be, like specifically estrogen, is going to be negatively impacted. And then I'm going to kind of skip over the pregnenolone and DHEA. They do have an important role to play, but not one that I'm going to specifically tie to cravings. So we're going to kind of skip over those and move on to the thyroid hormones. Now, these are quite complex, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but I want you to just know that they're connected to our mood, and they're also metabolism regulating hormones. And we need 5 organs to be functioning healthily for our thyroid to work properly. So this is the brain, the thyroid itself, the liver, the gut, and the adrenals. So I'm not going to say too much more about the thyroid right now. So ghrelin is the next hormone, and it is considered the hunger hormone. And that is because it stimulates appetite. So in someone who has normal functioning ghrelin, ghrelin levels tend to increase before a meal when we start to feel hungry, and then they gradually decrease after we're done eating, signaling that we're no longer hungry. When ghrelin levels are elevated, individuals are going to be more likely to experience strong feelings of hunger and cravings that feel a little bit more or a lot more uncontrollable. Leptin is our satiety hormone, so it kind of works opposite to ghrelin, and it signals to our brain that we're full, that we're satisfied, that we don't need any more food. And now with leptin, there's a number of things that can interfere with it. Excessive sugar intake is one of them, and it can lead to leptin resistance, similar to like insulin resistance. So the brain becomes less responsive to its signals. So this can potentially lead to uncontrollable cravings, overeating, and the downstream effects of that. So next is estrogen, and that one we call I am woman. So it is one of the primary sex hormones that's produced in our ovaries, and its levels fluctuate throughout our menstrual cycle, but also throughout our lives as well. And as I mentioned before, so estrogen thrives when insulin levels are low. And when we see these dramatic swings in estrogen levels during menopause, this often becomes the time where if you didn't struggle with sugar cravings, now might be the time where they really start to become uncontrollable, or if you've been struggling all along, they really get worse with these fluctuations. So And this is one reason why we see our cravings are more difficult to manage at certain times of our menstrual or ovarian cycle. And this is one area that I'm going to talk a lot more about during the retreat. So a couple more things about estrogen. It has a big impact on our mood and on our appetite. And it plays in with progesterone. They kind of do a little dance together. So progesterone is the other primary female hormone, and it's dubbed prepare for pregnancy hormone, although it does a lot of other things as well. But it is the one that rises particularly that week before we get our period, because the body is preparing for implantation and a possible pregnancy. So progesterone, interestingly, actually thrives when our body has a little extra circulating glucose. So before estrogen, like I said, it thrives when insulin is low. So when blood sugar is also on the lower side, whereas progesterone is the opposite. And this is why we might experience a lot stronger cravings that week before our period. In addition to the fact that our body is preparing for the implantation of new life, so it's also asking for additional fuel. So the combination of these two things can really impact our cravings if we don't understand what's going on. And then lastly, testosterone, also super important for women. It plays a significant role in our health. It's that get up and go hormone, giving us that energy, feeling powerful, positive energy, and mood. It also has some influence on our insulin sensitivity and obviously our libido. So that is a very quick rundown of the hormones that I'm going to be focusing on. And I just have a couple of little visuals here to kind of give you a better picture of what that looks like. So like you can see, the green line here is where is our progesterone. So that week before our cycle starts, that's when it's going to rise, and that's when we see those cravings really start. And then estrogen is that blue. So we kind of have a big peak right before ovulation, and then another one along with progesterone. So we might feel more than one change in our appetite and cravings throughout the cycle. So nothing that you have to memorize here, but sometimes it's just like nice to have that little visual. And then this one is kind of fun. So for those of you who, like I said, might have experienced a change in how your body responds to certain foods, sugar in particular, during perimenopause, this chart or this picture really explains why. So in premenopause, so that's considered in this scenario anytime from the time you start your period until you begin perimenopause. So we expect for there to be some regularity with our cycle. Of course, there's always things that can happen, but we do expect for there to be some regularity there. When perimenopause comes around, we see these fluctuations, and there can be some high peaks and some low lows, but in general, progesterone and estrogen slowly decrease throughout that time until we're in menopause and postmenopausal. So perimenopause begins approximately around the age of 35, but really there's a big range for this. And this stage can last 10, 15, or even, plus years. the average lasting about 4 to 8. But again, there's big variability here. So I don't want anyone to think that they're abnormal if it started before then or after then. So like I said, these estrogen and progesterone in particular are going to gradually decline during this period, but we're going to see some spikes and valleys throughout there. And then menopause, it marks a very arbitrary point where a woman has gone 12 consecutive months without a period. But like I said, this really is arbitrary. There's some argument about why this number was chosen. We don't really need to worry about that. This commonly occurs around the ages of 45 to 55, but again, it can be later than that. And there's nothing to be worried about if that is the case. So postmenopause is anytime after that postmenopause is anytime after that those 12 consecutive months. And at this point, our symptoms usually diminish, but in many cases, they can persist as well. So I'm going to go through just very quickly what we can actually do, because I imagine most of you here tonight want to know what the solutions are, not just all the things that happen to our amazing, interesting bodies. So I'm going to be digging into these a lot deeper during the retreat, but these are the areas on which the solutions we're going to focus. So my macronutrients, so this is your protein, your carbs, and fat. And when we can get in alignment with finding an eating plan that works for us, this is when we're going to see the best balance for our own bodies. And again, this is going to look different for everybody. But one of the things that I promote for almost all of my clients is focusing, well, I would say all of my clients, focusing on protein. That's going to make the biggest difference in terms of our cravings. So focusing on that at every meal. If you're doing snacks, then having that the focus of your snack. And that is going to help to start balance those leptin and ghrelin levels. It's not going to do everything, but it's going to help start that balance process. Now, when we talk about fats, I'm talking about natural fats. So these are going to be ones that come occurring with our animal proteins, and ones that are very minimally processed, like coconut oils, olive oils, things like this. And then complex carbs. So I'm not talking about sugary treats when I say carbs. So again, the carbs is a very highly controversial topic. Many in the sugar and food addiction space have completely demonized all carbs, while some still eat grains, starchy veg, fruits, legumes, things like that, or some combination of the above, while others choose not to eat any of those at all. We really do have to find out what works best for us. So there's no one size fits all approach when it comes to nutrition. But there are some baseline things that we can do that are going to help the majority of people. The next one being vitamins and minerals. So making sure we're getting all those in sufficient quantities, and we do that by ensuring that we're getting proper protein, carbs, if we choose to eat them, and the fats. Next is fiber, and again, this one is a little controversial too. If you're not eating any carbs at all, then you're not going to be getting the fiber. There's some people that do well. They do exceptionally well with zero fiber. Others need a lot of it. So again, it's finding where you fit on that spectrum. Hydration is another one that is really important, because our body actually has a very hard time distinguishing between hunger and thirst. So oftentimes our cravings can actually be our body asking for fluid and electrolytes. So it's not just about water, but When we say hydration, it's also about electrolytes. Next is movement. So physical activity, especially if we can do it outside with other people, is going to help to regulate a number of our hormones. It's going to help us to manage stress and also reduce those sugar cravings. Next, sleep and rest. So you will have an opportunity to learn a lot more about this with Vika, but getting that optimal sleep is really going to help to balance out those cortisol levels, and it's necessary for our thyroid regulation, and then all of that downstream of that. Mindfulness and meditation. So this can look like just a simple meditation. It might look like a moving meditation like yoga or Tai Chi. Any of these are going to help to optimize cortisol levels. And I don't like to say just reduce cortisol levels, because it's about having the right cortisol levels at the right time, because it does fluctuate through the day, and we do need some to function optimally. Next, connection and support. So having that meaningful connection and feeling supported in our recovery and just life in general is really going to help with that production of that oxytocin that I talked about earlier. And it really buffers that impact of stress. So you might still be experiencing that same level of stress, but your body is able to manage it much better. And that kind of leads us into the stress management piece. So again, many of the same techniques and activities, the mindfulness and meditation are some of them. These are all going to lead into the stress management piece as well. And when we manage our stress properly, we're going to see better insulin sensitivity. We're going to improve the functioning of our thyroid hormones. And you can kind of see as I go through here, they all connect to each other, and they all kind of have this positive downstream effect. So the second last one is hormesis. So this is a type of short-term stress that in the long term is going to make us more resilient. So this can be something like exercise and doing other things that make us uncomfortable, like going in a sauna or taking a cold plunge. So they don't feel good necessarily in the moment, but they do improve that resilience long term. And they do things like improve our insulin sensitivity. They're going to release that oxytocin. They're going to help balance those sex hormones. So lots of different things that we can do to support our hormones. And then lastly is supplements. So there are like natural food-based supplements like omega-3s that can help to improve our insulin sensitivity. Magnesium, which isn't actually involved in over 700 biochemical processes in our body. So really, really important. But there's also supplementing with bioidentical hormones. So this isn't something that I'm able to prescribe, but it is something worth looking at if this is an area that you're really struggling in, because we shouldn't be waiting until we're completely depleted to replace them. There are like smaller doses that we can take to supplement those dwindling levels as we go through perimenopause. So this area of supplementation also needs to be included in that. So phew, I know that's a lot. So like I said, I'm going to be diving deeper into these, and we'll go through them a little slower and have some more time to really make those connections to how each of these hormones impact our cravings, and how you can actually use this information to make a positive change in your life. And I'm going to be giving some specific recommendation for the pre, the peri, and the postmenopausal stages of life. and as well as some more details on those solutions that I just went to, so that you have some tools available to you to support both that hormone balance piece and craving control. And I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but this information I think is really valuable, whether you're a man or a woman, because one, maybe you want to just help support those loved ones in your life, but I think that this information can feed into your own body, whether you're a man or a woman, and just give you some more information on how these hormones work in our body and what we can do to support our sobriety and to support our recovery. So I will end it there. And does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Okay. Go for it.
Hi. Oops. Thanks for being here. Rachel, really enjoyed that presentation. I was just wondering about all those hormones. Is like there a specific blood test? Like, are they in a grouping, or is it just defined as hormones and that just goes through it?
Yeah, so
Like on a requisition, I mean.
right, yes. So you I would probably speak to your family physician or a naturopath if you work with them, but there are a couple of different tests that groupings and individual tests that they can order. One of them is the Dutch test, and then there's also if you're someone who is still cycling, then there are certain.
Oh, excuse me, I am flatlining.
Okay.
Did you see those lines that are just going right across? Libido, right across. Just keep going.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I would speak with your healthcare practitioner and see what they recommend. But yeah, there are a number of tests. Some of them are grouped together. Others will have to be just done separately. But yeah, I think that it's a great opportunity to have these tests done if you have the finances for that, because they just give us more information about our body. And like I said, I don't order these tests and I can't specifically give recommendations on them, but I think that the more you know about your body, the more information you have, the better.
Yeah. So that was DU. Is there is it specific
Sorry?
lettering? Is there a specific
Like
I think
Dutch test, like so Dutch Holland. It's like the
Okay.
same,
I put
spelled
it in the
exactly
chat.
the same way. And it's in the chat.
Okay. Like Dutch cookies, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, don't think those.
Thank you.
Annie.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for your presentation. I want to get rid of my hand. I don't want to look at it. So what I was noticing, from my own life's journey with all of this, like I started yoga maybe in the early 80s and then got certified to teach, and then a kind of a dance thing. Now I'm doing Buddhist meditation. And I wanted to say that based on your presentation, what I really didn't hear was the importance of like really soothing as well as sensual contact with oneself to come more deeply into an embodied relationship. Like there's so much ego in yoga, and like from the presentation, there's this way that people like measure their number of steps they do, and everything is kind of like from this is what we do. There's something really qualitatively different about deep connection from a more being place, and where I just didn't hear, it was kind of like I loved all of what you said, Oh, and I will also say that my libido is really strong now. I mean, and I'm not acting on it, but my food is mostly really clean with some occasional lapses, and it's like I had to let go of so much stuff. I did the ice baths for a year. I've tried so many things, but when I really started coming into a more tender and like unscripted relationship with my body, including my feelings and my sensuality, and it like from a place of exploration and curiosity, and not like just checking something off, like things really started changing. And I hope that's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. I think that that was a piece that I had intended to talk about tonight, that when I discussed that connection piece, that connection to self, like you said, is very important. And I think that you're bang on when you say like that looking at ourselves from a more gentle perspective is really important. So that connection, it's not just to the outside world, but it's feeling connected all together. And that includes ourselves. If we believe in a higher spirit, then that's part of it as well. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I just like the importance of experimentation and like not following the rules, like, and really, this is investigation and curiosity. And it's like we have this inner place that, like, it's self-pleasuring. We know exactly. It's the same with connecting. It's like there's a way that just, I don't know. I just passionate about this, because then the appetite, that like there's satisfaction and real nourishment, and then the whole like substituting food for other needs like just kind of falls away.
I love that. Beautiful. Anyone else have any questions?
Tanya.
I don't like it when it's quiet. I have a magnesium liquid form that I take at night, but I find the pills are better. Is there a difference?
You know what? There's so many different types of magnesium and forms that they come in. So I think it's really something that you have to find that works the best for you. Depends on what your goals are. So, I mean, some work better for our bowels if we're experiencing constipation. Some work better for our brain health. Some are better for rest and relaxation. So, I
do the Camprev,
Okay.
the biglycinate.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that one is if you're looking for that rest and relaxation piece, then that's a good one to take in the evening.
Oh, there's a magnesium for the brain too?
Yeah, it's called Magnesium 3 and 8.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, like I said, magnesium, it plays over 700 different roles in our body. So yeah, one of the most important ones. And a lot of women are depleted in it just because it needs to do so many things in our body, and also because our food is deficient in it.
Wow. So you can take like the relaxation one and you can take the other ones as well?
Yeah, there are some supplements that actually come with a combination of like one or two or all of them.
So what was that? You said 3 and 8?
3 and 8. Yeah, I can put it in the chat.
3 and 8. No, that's okay. That's okay. I got it. It made such a difference. If somebody needs to have their, like for sleeping, I noticed such a difference. Like it was a solid sleep. That's why I'm thinking, I don't know if it's psychological, because I did the liquid form and then I put it in the fridge and there's like a rock in there. It's like solidified or something. It's weird. Anyways, oh my God, this is what you get. That's what you get, brain fog.
Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. Anyone else have any questions for Rachel or questions about the retreat that we could help answer? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and we will be sure to send out this recording via email as well. And yeah, only a few weeks till the meetup. So really looking forward to getting to see everyone in person who's going to be able to join us. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you, everyone.
If you like what you heard today, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.